A young baby with both an atrial and a ventricular septal defect presents early for elective surgical repair. Cardioplegia perfusate flowing through the muscle of the heart eventually drains into the coronary sinus, which empties into the right atrium. This causes the right atrium to fill and slowly distend, despite there being no bicaval venous return on account of the caval snares being tightened. A slim pericardiotomy sucker is introduced through the atriotomy to empty out the space. The atriotomy is then extended upwards and downwards. The right edge of the atriotomy is suspended with silk-stay suture. Instead of suspending the left edge, retraction sutures are placed in the corners of the annulus of the tricuspid valve. A slim pericardiotomy sucker has been placed from below into the atriotomy, passing through the atrial septal defect and with its tip resting in the left atrium. As the initial infusion of cardioplegia perfusate has now been completed and stopped, we are now operating in a bloodless field. Two small handheld retractors are used to lift the front part of the annulus of the tricuspid valve. The margins of the ventricular septal defect are seen here just beyond the septal leaflet of the tricuspid valve. The first sutures to be placed in the margin of the ventricular septal defect are the pericardioplegia sutures harvested earlier. The sutures are passed from the right atrium behind the annulus of the tricuspid valve and emerge from the margin of the ventricular septal defect. The sutures are placed this way because the margin of the ventricular septal defect in this region is too close to the annulus of the tricuspid valve for the sutures to be placed entirely within the right ventricle. Elsewhere along the margin of the defect, where the sutures can be located entirely within the right ventricle, sutures pleated with wool felt are used. This is the ventricular septal defect with sutures in place. A repair patch can now be sewn into place over it. A repair patch of approximately the correct size is compared with the orifice of the ventricular septal defect. It is then tailored down to the correct size and shape, then mounted in preparation for suturing. The sutures placed earlier through the rim of the ventricular septal defect are taken up and passed in turn through the margins of a correctly sized and shaped repair patch. With the sutures in place, the patch is parachuted down into position over the ventricular septal defect. Its position is checked and the sutures are tied in turn. Here you see the assistant holding the edge of the patch as the knots are first tied. This allows the patch to conform closely to the margin of the ventricular septal defect. Wrinkling of the patch and therefore leakage through the suture line is minimized. The edge of the septal leaflet of the tricuspid valve, which was cut away earlier in the operation, is repaired to restore function of the tricuspid valve. This is done with interrupted fine monofilament polypropylene suture. Once the valve has been repaired, it is tested for competence. Sterile saline is instilled into the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve. The valve is then inspected for any areas of leakage which may require supplementary repair. The tricuspid valve is competent, and we may proceed to repairing the atrial septal defect. A slim pericardiotomy sucker has been placed within the atrial septal defect. The atrial septal defect is closed with a two-layer continuous over and over suture technique. A fine double-ended proline monofilament suture is anchored in the bottom corner of the septal defect. One needle is secured out of the way, while the other is used to carry the suture line headwards as a continuous over and over suture. As the suture line reaches the upper part of the septal defect, the heart is allowed to fill, and the anesthetist gently ventilates the lungs to expel any air from the pulmonary veins. This de-airs the left atrium. When the suture reaches the top corner of the septal defect, it is tied to itself and trimmed. Then the second needle is used to carry an over and over suture line from below upwards, reinforcing the first. Where the two meet, they are tied together. The Cardioplegia cannula is connected to the vent section of the cardiopulmonary bypass machine. This helps to de-air the aortic root and the left ventricle. The stay sutures in the annulus of the tricuspid valve and the margin of the right atriotomy are removed. The right atrium will also be closed with a two-layer suture technique using a fine monofilament suture anchored in the bottom corner of the atriotomy. The needle on one end of the suture is secured out of the way, while the other one is used to carry the suture line headwards as a continuous over and over suture. On reaching the top corner of the atriotomy, the suture is tied to itself. With the vent cannula under gentle suction, pump flows are reduced and the cross clamp is released. The remaining needle at the bottom corner of the atriotomy is then taken up and used to advance a second suture line headwards, this time as a continuous side-to-side horizontal mattress suture. This second suture line helps to make the first one more watertight by redistributing suture tension. Where the two sutures meet at the top corner of the atriotomy, they are tied together. The snares around the superior and inferior vena cava are released.